Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're jumping into a topic that, well, it really affects everyone, doesn't it? The state of global health.
It certainly does.
And when you look at the figures, the rise in chronic diseases all over the world, hitting young and old, it's pretty striking. Healthcare systems are, you can see they're straining. Insurance costs keep going up. Hospitals, doctors, nurses, they're under so much pressure. It's a real challenge in many, many countries.
Definitely a crisis. And that's kind of the backdrop for our focus today, which the source material we're looking at calls a quality of life health revolution.
Or revolution, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
and the idea is that the insights here, they could really impact not just your own health, but, your family, your loved ones too.
So where are these insights coming from?
Yeah.
Our source today is a webinar transcript from ASC Global Team's YouTube channel.
That's right.
It talks about this company, ASC, and what they call their 3 superfoods. They mention Japanese scientific breakthrough and get this, 17 functional patents.
17. Wow. So our mission really is to unpack how this company, AFC, its products, and its whole philosophy, at least as presented in the webinar, are trying to, well, redefine health.
Moving beyond just treating sickness when it happens.
Exactly, towards something more proactive.
Okay, sounds ambitious. Let's get into it then.
Uh-huh.
We're diving into what the source presents as surprising facts, real-world examples, and a whole fresh look at taking charge of your health. Okay, let's unpack this, starting with the crisis itself. #TechTag1, the crisis and the call for a health revolution.
Right, so let's just underline that core problem again. Rising chronic diseases, rising healthcare costs. The source makes it clear this just isn't sustainable, is it?
Not at all. And that's precisely why this idea of a health revolution, which the webinar introduces, feels so relevant. It's arguing for a really fundamental shift.
From what to what, exactly?
Well, the source puts it as moving from sick care, the usual cycle, hospitals, doctors, drugs, reacting to illness, towards actual health care.
Meaning preventive, personalized, proactive, and predictive, but then it goes even further.
Oh.
Yeah. The ultimate aim, they say, is quality of life care. And this is built on 5 pillars: physical, mental, spiritual, social, and financial health.
Wow, that's holistic.
It really is. And it leads to that question the webinar poses. If your body's the only place you have to live, shouldn't you take, full personal ownership of it?
That's a really powerful point about personal responsibility. So let's look at AFC, the company behind this idea. The webinar says they're well-established, dating back to 1969.
Yeah, over 50 years now. And their background is quite interesting. They started out in 69 as an OEM manufacturer.
OEM?
Original equipment manufacturer. So they made products for other companies under other brand names. AMSHD, they called it. Made over 40,000 different health supplements for 400 clients.
40,000, that's huge.
It is. Then by 1983, they set up their own research division, even started a TV channel for health promotion. Quite forward-thinking.
And they kept growing.
Listed on the Tokyo Stock Exchange in 2005, and then this big move in 2018, launching these superfoods in Indonesia.
Right, the global expansion.
Exactly. The source claims they've got millions of members there now over 7 years, including doctors. Now they're launching in Malaysia, July 20th, actually, and they've got plans for the U.S., Singapore, Australia.
So they're serious about expanding. Offices in Japan, Jakarta, Surabaya, Medan, Bali, Kuala Lumpur soon.
Seems like it.
Now, the webinar talks about validation. It says AFC is listed on MIMS in Indonesia.
Yeah, the monthly index of medical specialty. It's a resource doctors use.
Okay, so that's significant.
Yeah.
And it also mentions halal certification and FDA approval. The source presents this as backup for using it as a supplement or even adjuvant therapy.
Right, meaning alongside conventional medical treatments, it gives it a layer of credibility, according to the source. Here's where it gets really interesting. The products themselves. Okay, let's dive into the first one. SOP Subarashi. The name apparently means wonderful, amazing SOP. SOP standing for salmon ovary peptide.
Salmon ovary peptide. Okay. And the source calls this a Japanese scientific breakthrough, the world's first triple peptide technology. What benefits are they claiming?
Well, the webinar highlights 4 key patents. First, stem cell regeneration. They claim it activates your body's own stem cells.
Which is important. Why?
Because our natural levels drop off apparently quite dramatically after age 60, down to maybe 5–10%. So activating what's left is key.
Got it.
Second, improved blood circulation. Third, it's patented as an anti-hypertensive agent, specifically for lowering high blood pressure. And fourth, preventing clotting.
All crucial for heart health.
Absolutely. When you think about cardiovascular disease, these are major targets.
And the ingredients for this triple peptide, it mentions marine placenta, the SOP sardine peptide for blood pressure, and fruit-fly vegan peptides for blood flow.
That's right. And it notes that fruit flow actually has approval from the European Food Safety Authority, EFSA, as a natural cardiovascular protective ingredient.
Okay, that's interesting validation.
And the webinar also talks about peptides in general, calling them essential building blocks of life, active substances that rejuvenate.
Rejuvenate. Sounds powerful.
Well, they point to research, like 20 Nobel Prize winners in peptide research over 30 years. Now, some claims are very bold, like peptides treating almost any disease or being superior to any nutrition or medicine, even increasing lifespan by 20 years.
Okay, those are huge claims.
They are definitely aspirational claims presented in the source, but the underlying point seems to be the growing science around peptides and cellular health, you know?
Right, the potential. So besides the core peptides, what else is in SOP Subarashi?
According to the source, there are 7 other ingredients listed. Chondroitin, amino acid, fish collagen, which they note is good for skin too, glutathione.
The master antioxidant, right.
Nucleic acid, elastin, and hyaluronic acid.
Quite a list. So the overall benefits they're suggesting are?
Pretty wide-ranging. Heart health is essential blood pressure, preventing heart disease, improving blood flow, also brain function, potentially reducing stroke risk, pancreatic support for diabetes, kidney health, bones helping with osteoporosis, joints even strengthening hair roots.
And connecting this back to the crisis we started with, cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer globally. 18.6 million deaths a year.
Staggering number.
And hypertension affects, what, 1.3 billion people?
Yeah.
Diabetes, 1 death every 5 seconds, 1 in 10 people living with it.
Yeah.
So when the source talks about protecting your heart for potentially less than a day's cost for these products, it definitely makes you think about preventative investment. That framing of sick care versus health care really does shift the perspective. And talking about prevention, let's look at the second superfood, 𝗬𝗪𝗪. Means beautiful, apparently, but positioned for anti-tumor and anti-cancer benefits.
That's right. And this one, the webinar states, has 8 powerful patents.
8? Okay, what are they?
It's claimed to act as an anti-tumor agent by activating the body's natural killer cells, NK cells, to fight cancer. Also, an immune-activating effect, boosting white blood cells and general immunity. Then there's one listed as a therapeutic agent on C. hypothetic cum oppression, which they claim reduces chemotherapy side effects.
Interesting. Lessening chemo's impact.
That seems to be the idea presented, plus patents as a toxic reducer for infection protection, SARS prevention, and reducing oxidative stress.
Oxidative stress.
Yeah.
That's linked to inflammation and chronic illness.
Exactly. The source highlights it as a root cause.
And something else highlighted is gut health. 𝗬𝗪𝗪 has 3 super probiotics.
Yes, specifically for the gut and immune function. The webinar really emphasizes this, calling the gut microbiome the body's CPU.
The central processor. Okay.
It is.
Beyond the probiotics, the ingredients list include salmon DNA, fusidan, that's from seaweed, often studied for immune benefits, black garlic, glutathione again.
Master antioxidant popping up again?
Yep. Vitamin D, fish collagen, pineapple extract, and resveratrol. So the overall effect they claim is
building immunity, activating those killer cells against abnormal cells. The source says it's so effective to fight against tumor and cancer. And it stresses that cancer doesn't just appear overnight.
Right, it's a process.
So the argument is the battle must begin now, proactive defense.
And the stats they share are pretty sobering. Cancer is the #2 cause of death, potentially increasing 64% by 2040.
To 16.3 million deaths, yeah. And they even cite a report suggesting 1 in 2 persons is likely to have cancer in their lifetime.
1 in 2.
Wow.
That certainly underlines the urgency they're talking about.
Moving to the third superfood mentioned, Hikari, which means light. And this one's focused on eye and brain health.
Eye and brain, okay. They're closely connected, aren't they?
Intricately. And Hikari comes with 5 patents, according to the source.
What do these cover?
Improving visual performance and eye health generally. Protecting eyes from blue light exposure, very relevant today. Improving brain memory, enhancing overall brain function and activity, and enhancing neurogenesis levels.
Neurogenesis.
Yeah.
That's new brain cell growth.
That's the idea.
Yeah.
And they highlight its nano size, and again, triple peptides.
More peptides. Which ones this time?
Marigold peptides, which contain lutein, known for eye health, spin peptides for cognitive function and neuroprotection, and mango leaf peptides. The claim is they're easily absorbed, even taken orally.
And it also has antioxidant fruits.
A whole list: strawberry, blackcurrant, acerola, blueberry, cherry, and lingonberry. Powerful antioxidants.
So for the eyes, what specific benefits are mentioned?
Good for dry eyes, floaters, those little spots drifting in your vision.
Yeah, I know those. Annoying.
Apparently becoming more common even in younger people.
Yeah.
And tackling the 4 major causes of blindness: cataracts, glaucoma, diabetic eye disease, and macular degeneration.
Serious conditions.
Very. The source asks, how much is your eye worth? Posing the cost, around $6 a day, against the value of sight.
Puts it in perspective. And the brain benefits.
They claim support for a wide range of neurological issues: Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis, and dementia. They call it a dementia crisis.
For a dementia crisis.
Yeah, citing stats like 1 every 3 seconds developing it, 78 million cases expected by 2030, costing trillions.
That's staggering.
It is. Also mentioned are movement disorders, psychological conditions, migraine, epilepsy, cognitive function, autism, mental health like stress and anxiety, even physical symptoms like dizziness and back pain. A very broad scope of claims.
That is an incredible range of claimed benefits across these 3 products. To ground this, the webinar includes testimonials featuring a Dr. 𝗬𝗍, a medical doctor and an AFC leader.
Yes, he shares his experience over 6 years. And interestingly, he says he joined because of the product's effects he witnessed, not initially for the business side.
Okay, so what did he witness? What stories did he share?
Some pretty compelling ones, as presented in the source. A friend who seemed to become young again. A woman paralyzed by a stroke for 7 years who, he claims, recovered quickly enough to attend events, making her husband cry with happiness. Wow.
Another leader who had severe kidney and heart problems was considered dying, apparently made a full recovery, got energetic, even became a distributor.
And Dr. 𝗬𝗍 himself.
He claimed his own kidney and liver problems resolved.
What about his family? Did he mention them?
Yes, quite powerfully. His 80-year-old mother had colon cancer, refused chemoradiotherapy after surgery. He says she's still healthy. And her dementia improved. Her vision got to 100%, reading small print without glasses.
Vision improved with dementia. How is that confirmed?
He stated his daughter, who is a specialist doctor, confirmed her cylinder vision had significantly reduced.
Okay. Any other family stories?
His mother-in-law, described as having a very weak heart, went from bedridden to traveling extensively Bali to Java, even Europe.
From bedridden to traveling Europe, that's quite a turnaround, claimed.
It is. And maybe the most moving story involved twins born blind, no retina. Their mother, reportedly quite poor, used government aid for the products.
And Dr. 𝗬𝗍 claims they started to see, confirmed by doctors. He actually called it God's product in the webinar, saying it had an almost 100% hit and very fast. Very strong language, reflecting his reported experience.
Definitely strong words.
Oh.
Any other examples he gave?
Yes. A patient whose severe skin black spots from chemicals cleared in about 1 to 1.5 months. His own skin improved. He mentioned 3 recent cases in Malaysia of terminally ill cancer patients completely healed in 3 months.
Completely healed. That's extraordinary.
It's what was claimed in the webinar. Also, his brother's autoimmune disease, psoriatic type, being almost 100% 𝗧𝗪, relief for neuropathy, that nerve pain, tingling from diabetes or chemo, and severe knee osteoarthritis, a patient avoiding knee replacement, healed in weeks with SOP Subarashi, he claimed.
You know, there's often skepticism about supplements, but hearing these kinds of testimonials, which they say there are thousands of, especially for people who felt they had no hope, it does make you pause and consider the body's potential, doesn't it?
It certainly presents a compelling narrative. Regarding usage, Dr. 𝗬𝗍 mentions some take it continuously, others stop when healed. He did mention a possible initial detox or healing crisis.
Like feeling worse before feeling better.
Potentially, yeah. He advised adjusting dosage if that happens, but stressed the products are claimed to be 100% natural, herbal, non-toxic, certified, and FDA approved.
What about other doctors? What's their take, according to Dr. 𝗬𝗍?
He acknowledged some negativity, but also said a lot of doctors in Indonesia are joining AFC.
Why?
Because they've apparently seen patients they couldn't help get better or even experienced healing themselves. But ultimately, he emphasized, it's about personal responsibility for your health choices. #tagged HealthRebro.
So as we wrap up our deep dive today, let's circle back to that core idea from the source, the quality of life health revolution. It's really about this shift, isn't it? Moving from just reacting to sickness.
From that sick care model.
Right. Towards proactive, predictive, personalized healthcare.
Yeah.
And ultimately aiming for that full quality of life, looking at all those pillars: physical, mental, spiritual, social, financial.
And what stands out from the webinar is how these specific products, these superfoods, and the story shared, they really point towards the potential of your own body's natural ability to heal and regenerate.
Supporting the body's own wisdom, essentially.
It seems to be the central theme presented, highlighting that inherent power to restore itself.
So maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to take away today is this. What's one small step you could take, starting now, to move your own approach from sick care toward quality of life care? Especially now, thinking about your body's amazing potential for self-healing and regeneration, as discussed in our source today. Something to ponder.